Hello, this is the podcast host version of George checking in one last time for the Patreon bonus intro. If you're hearing this, it's because Best Little Horror House in Philly has ended, and I'm releasing the Patreon bonus episodes into the wild. These episodes only exist thanks to the very generous support of some listeners over the years, and I encourage you all to consider supporting an independent podcast this way, or independent art in general. As I mentioned, these episodes are coming from all over the podcast timeline. You'll hear the old intro sometimes, which is kind of a yardstick, but generally I am mentioning this because it means that they will have varying levels of audio quality. As I got better at hosting, so too did the technical aspects. While I certainly wish all the episodes were of the same standard that it reached near the end, I can't go back in time, and I felt it was better to release them this way than not at all, so I hope you enjoy. Hi everybody, I'm George, and this is another Spotlight episode of the Best Little Horror House in Philly, where we bring back guests to talk about movies that maybe aren't quite the best, but certainly worth discussing. Today's guest is back from a tour with his podcast Doughboys and filming for the upcoming Twisted Metal series. Welcome Child's Play picker Mike Mitchell. How's it going, dude?
What's going on? How are you? Good to see you.
Doing really well, yeah. Child's Play is in the news again lately because it's been coming up on Gorley and Rust. Their podcast is covering Child's Play right now, and I'm like, we beat them to it.
Wow. Damn. Beat the masters at their game. I love it. Exactly. You're a master, too. I'm not trying to exclude you from the master realm. All three of you guys are horror masters. So when is that crossover going to happen? That's what we want to see.
Hey, great question. I know that it's still very early in the process for Twisted Metal stuff, so I understand if you can't talk about it at all. But I did want to ask, I'm a fan of the games. There's a lot of horror elements in the story of the games in particular, and I'm curious if you, as another horror fan, feel like that does persist into the show at all. And follow up, did you get to drive a monster truck?
The second question, I'll say that I probably can't answer the second one.
Wow.
And I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, like, it's so tricky with Hollywood stuff where it's like, I'll say, I can't answer that. And then they'll like put like a photo of like, here's like a picture from the upcoming show. And it's like me in a monster truck. But I have a lot more to film. I have not filmed in a monster truck yet. That's all I'll say. I don't know if I do. I don't know if I don't. I have no idea.
TBD, to be driven.
TBD. As far as, I think that the show is great. The writers are awesome. This guy, Michael Jonathan, who worked on Cobra Kai, is running the show, and he's good as hell. MJ. He rules. He loves the game. He gets it. I think that there's, a lot of horror, action, drama, like all sorts of different, it's a big stew of exciting stuff. So I'm excited for I think people are going to really, really like it. Like, it's that sort of thing. Like, I've read online, some people be like, this just kind of sounds like Mad Max. Like, people, first of all, this is like a very limited number of people who are like, this just kind of sounds like a Mad Max TV show. And I'm like, well, one, what's wrong with that? First of all,
that sounds great.
I mean, a Mad Max TV show sounds great.
Oh, it's only amazing.
Yeah, it's Twisted Metal. It's cool. It's fucking crazy, and there's so much stuff that I'm excited for people to see, and I've had a blast filming it. So
hell yeah,
I'm hoping that it comes out awesome. The cast is so great.
The cast really is amazing. I'm really looking forward to the show for sure.
The cast is great. The crew has been awesome. I like truly. There's nothing I can. I have no complaints. It's funny. It's scary. It's gory. It's exciting. It's just it's all of the above. It's very. I'm very, very, very much looking forward to people seeing it whenever it comes out, which I don't know the date it's coming out either, so who knows, but I can't wait. This is the most excited I've been in a long time. I really can't wait for people to see it.
Very excited, and who knows, maybe we'll see it in a monster truck. Wink.
I am Stu. I do play Stu from Mike and Stu, so that is... That is confirmed. I am.
Yeah, I am. Hammerhead. I mean, feels like it's right in there. So we'll see.
We'll see. What was your vehicle of choice back?
That was the thing. Is I played Hammerhead all the time, man. I loved it. Because I also used to play a lot with my brother, and so he always got first pick, and he would take Sweet Tooth. and so I was like, well, I'm going with straight up monster trucks.
Sweet Tooth also confirmed in it. Will I cross over with Sweet Tooth at all? Who knows? Can't tell you.
Who knows?
But
well, we'll definitely have to check that out and see.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Since we don't need to go through your history with horror again, since we covered that on the first show.
Sure, yeah.
I usually just ask people if they've seen anything interesting lately. Doesn't have to be horror, just in general.
Well, I'm going to open up. This year has been crazy just because I've been going all around. Like I've been in New Orleans, and then I was back in Quincy for some weddings. But I'm trying to think of any. I haven't watched a lot of horror movies. The last horror movie I watched was the remake of Candyman. Mm-hmm. Man, when I watched that back in April. That shows you how. So this is the Blob was I want to watch is it the Black Phone? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that looks fun. I haven't gotten to that one yet myself.
I haven't gotten to it yet. I want to see
Ethan
it.
Hawke, amazing.
I saw Thor. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw Beavis and Butthead do the universe. Those are the last few movies I watched. Top Gun, which I loved.
Oh yeah.
I haven't watched. I got to get on a horror kick again. And you know what? We're getting here. We're moving into August. And then we got September, October. So like the horror months are coming up.
Definitely. Spooky season right around the corner.
Spooky season starts in September now, right? We got
right. It's a frame of mind, really.
It's always spooky season. I mean, I love horror movies, and I try to watch 100 movies a year, and I failed last year, and then this year we're over halfway through, and I've only seen about 30 movies this year, so I'm doing pretty bad. But I'll step it up. Like after Twisted Metal wraps, and I got the holidays and stuff. I'll start notching up some numbers. So
definitely,
yeah. There are some horror movies that I haven't seen that have been on my list forever, like Life Force and what's the the Guillermo del Toro one about vampires, basically.
Oh, yeah. What the heck is that one? Chronos? Is that Chronos?
Yeah, Chronos. I want to watch Chronos.
That's a good one. I like that a lot.
There's a few on my list that I really need to see. So this spooky season, I'll get a lot of them out.
Hell yeah. It definitely winds up. You get into a rhythm as it gets closer, and you're like, all right, let's bang out a couple horror movies here.
I'll tell you this much. The movie that we're going to talk about today does tie into my first choice, kind of, in a way.
Yeah,
and I'll explain it. It may be in more than one way. Maybe in multiple ways. You might know other connections, but thematically, it kind of fits into my first choice, and I'll explain why when we talk about it. But yeah, I got a lot of horror movies I still got to watch. I got a long list, and just movies in general. This year's been too crazy.
Hey,
I want to take a nap. I just want to nap and not watch movies recently. So
napping is great. I've been watching a lot of train movies recently. I watched both versions of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
I watched Unstoppable. I watched Runaway Train.
That's great.
Runaway Train is truly I watched the whole movie and never once got used to whatever accent Jon Voight was doing.
Jon Voight, I will say this. Politically, we don't align. He's kind of a right-wing guy. Mm-hmm. I will say that I got a ride in a golf cart, I believe when I was doing ADR stuff for Love, and he couldn't have been a nicer man. He was so nice to me.
Hell yeah.
In the golf cart and asking me what I was up to. Incredibly nice man when I met him in person. Politically,
Sure. We differ for sure.
We differ. Yeah.
I think I just want to say that I agree. We differ politically, but as much that makes sense. And I want to also clarify that my not getting used to his accent is part of what made me love the movie so much. In that I watched Unstoppable and I was like, oh, this is just Runaway Train without the fun, crazy accent.
He's a great actor and he makes choices, so
definitely called everyone sucker in the last half.
You know what I want to rewatch again? And it's a movie I've watched a few times. but I want to watch it again because I've been down on the bayou down in New Orleans, and Crawl was a movie that I saw in theaters and I loved it. I loved Crawl when I saw Crawl. Man, that's like one of my favorite horror movies in like the last like 20 years probably. I loved it. And I was like, when people were asking me that year, like, what's your favorite movies like of the year? And I was like, this is crazy, but like Crawl is like maybe one of my favorites of the year. And people were like, what, the alligator movie? I was like, yeah. And then I felt vindicated because Quentin Tarantino said that it was also one of his favorites of the year after that, like after I had been saying it's one of my favorites. And I was like, all right, a guy who knows what he's doing truly loves this movie. So it made me feel a little bit better.
It is cool. It's interesting to me that those like animal attack movies kind of went out of vogue. Like we got so many of them after Jaws that were just ripoffs of Jaws. And then now it's kind of had enough time to settle from the overcorrection.
There's a new Idris Elba one coming out. I think it's called Prey or something. Is that what it's called? Have you not seen this?
No.
It's about like a lion. I think it's like about like a lion that's that's like hunting this dude who's hunting Idris down or whatever. It looks cool.
Yeah, that's
maybe a part of it was just like the combo of like CGI animals looking real enough, and maybe they now like look okay enough to the point where it can work, and maybe even just like getting like working with live animals is also tough, and you want to obviously you want to treat them right, and there's like live footage of sharks in Jaws, as you know, and stuff like that, but they barely show the shark, and so that's the big thing with the movie. This is like parody territory to even bring this up of like not showing Bruce the shark. Everyone knows this is that they didn't show the shark, but I don't know. I feel like Crawl was really effective with me still seeing the gator. They just like I think it's just like kind of like showing it when you got to show it, keeping it in the dark. They'd show like the gator kind of like in the dark and then like popping up whenever, but like not to show it too much. But now they can kind of show the full beast, and with CGI it still looks like it's believable enough now or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, just before we start getting into our pick today, which is the 1988 version of The Blob.
That's right.
Have you seen the original Blob?
Yes. I've definitely seen the original. I'm not sure if I've like seen it all the way through, or even when the last time I remember it was like watching the trailer for it. There's like a like kind of like a hokey song with it, right? Like it wobbles down the stairs or something, right?
It creeps and leaps and bounds and bounds across the floor.
Yeah, that's right. That's the song, right?
Oh yeah.
So when I was younger, like my mom would get like, my birthday is close. It's October 6th. It's close to Halloween. I mean, close enough. It's just a few weeks away from Halloween. And so like a lot of times we go on haunted hayrides. And then like we would really celebrate. I mean, it's just that sort of thing of like the 80s were completely different. You'd really celebrate Halloween. There was stuff like we put up stuff on the walls and shit. Like there was like a little box filled with Halloween decorations next to the box of Christmas decorations when we go all out. But I remember my mom would get like VHSs of like Vincent Price movies. It was kind of like a collection, not even an anthology collection. It was kind of like, I feel like it didn't even show these whole movies. It was just kind of like clips basically.
Right.
And I feel like I saw The Blob in like one of those collection tapes of like, here's like a moment from The Blob. And I remember seeing like a thing from maybe I was a teenage werewolf. I don't even know if that's a real movie, but the kid hears the bell in school and he turns into the werewolf. Like all these types of movies that I just know bits about because I had these weird videos that showed little bits and pieces of them. But The Blob is one of them. I feel like I did watch the whole thing at one point. I'm almost sure of it. I remember that song, obviously. Right. Blob, always kind of a scary thing to me, especially after this movie. I mean, The Blob wasn't as scary. The idea of it is scary. And in this movie, we can talk about that too, because in the original, I'm like, oh, the Blob pulls you in, and then are you like stuck in the Blob? Do you become part of the Blob? And this one feels like the Blob just kind of fucking dissolves you.
Yeah.
Like
There's no questions about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just I mean, like, you definitely die, but also it is that weird thing where, like, it kind of looks like people are still alive a little bit longer than they should be.
Mhm.
And the first few deaths are just so I mean, it's so crazy to think of the original Blob, which is, like, not at all gruesome.
Right.
Obviously, like, a fantastic sci-fi and has a lot of fun elements to it. And for the time, I'm sure it was groundbreaking. I got to watch it again. But, you know, I'm not sure when I say all this stuff, but the remake is fucking brutal.
Yeah.
That's kind of all I can say about it. It's just a brutal movie. And to me, kind of like the perfect B movie. And I almost feel bad calling it a B movie. I mean that as like a gigantic compliment, that it's like this just fantastically great B movie that if this was in theaters when I was like 18 years old, and I went and saw it at like 11 p.m., I would leave the theater being so happy. like truly, there's just so much fun stuff in it.
Yeah.
And so much great practical effects that, like, it's awesome. It's like, It is a great movie. There's some stuff about it that, like, makes it a little bit of a B movie, but I love it.
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, one of the fun elements of B movies is that they tend to have a little bit of like a meta edge to them in terms of taking place around movie theaters and stuff like that. And the Blob is so famous for its movie theater scenes. And in this one in particular, it is just so outrageously incredible. Like, it's so gruesome and visceral. And the movie theater itself is such a fun sequence.
Yeah, that whole sequence is we'll get to the yo-yo scene and everything like that, but there was just so much fun stuff there, including the movie that they're watching, which is also just kind of fun in itself. The kind of the Friday the 13th kind of movie that they're watching in the theater while the Blob attacks is really great. Like, I want to watch a version of that movie even because I feel like it will be so in the same home of what's that movie with all the little space slugs that get in people and they turn into zombies at like it's like at the fraternity or like on the college campus. You know what I'm talking about?
Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps. Yeah. Yes, Night of the Creeps. Like, it has a vibe of like Night of the Creeps. Like, also of the time, like the sequel to The Fly that popped up I watched this on Plex, and that popped up on like similar movies was like The Fly 2.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, oh, like these like gross practical effects movies that are so visually jarring at some points. And there's a few moments that are just like visually, just the practical effects are just like, holy shit, what did I just see? Even still,
they're shocking.
Like, I mean, and there's a big one, but I'll talk about that when we get to it, because I feel like that's again what ties my first choice when I came on the pod in this movie. But yeah, just some stuff that like shook me to the core as a child. And this is the sort of movie that like I saw on like, it's like a USA Up All Night type movie or something. You know, it feels in that world so much of B movies, like you were saying, like that meta feel to it. It's like, I feel like this is like embraced by cult horror people, like the USA Up All Nights, the Joe Bob Briggs type people. Like, this is like one of those movies, but it still is great. It's like shorter. The plot is kind of like moves quicker than I thought it did, like than I remembered. It's kind of just a quick watch, but man, once it starts going, it doesn't really stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's like a big long opening to this movie, and I loved that too. It reminded me of like just when I would watch like Stephen King movies or something like Pet Sematary. It's just like these big long openings.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, it's just like, this is like this town. We're getting a feel of this town, and you're seeing like there's like 6 or 7 different shots, and it's just really quiet, and there's this eerie music, and then it goes right into a football game. And you know what? Even the football game is like really well done. It's that sort of thing of like watching it where you're like, man, you could make so much on a budget back in the 80s as opposed to now. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's a whole stand of like 300 extras in like the first shot of the movie.
Yeah.
It's great. And then like I said, it really gets going. and then just really surprises you with like some deaths just really surprise you, and you really have that feeling of like, oh fuck, I don't know who's gonna die, who's gonna make it, or what the deal is. And also, I don't know how gruesome it's gonna be when they go, because everyone is just fucking getting fucking melted into these blobs. It's this blob. It's fucking it's gnarly, dude. It's gnarly.
It really is. I think that the Stephen King comparison is really a great one, because he's so often throwing back to that same kind of 50s pastiche that he's doing, and of course that's where the
sometimes too
is
much.
Yes, right.
Sometimes King does it a little too much, but like no, yeah, like watching this movie, I was like, man, I want to like. If there was no blob, this is like such a nice Americana. Like I was like, like going out on a date, like the guy goes to pick up the Shawnee Smith or whatever, and like meets her dad, and he works at the pharmacy. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is like so sweet. The kids are going to like the 11 p.m. like monster movie. I'm like, I would love to live in this town, not in a Trumpy way. I don't want to like, I don't want to live in this. By the way. You know what? I was going to say mostly white town, but it's not all white, but there are a lot of white people in it. But
there are a lot of white people.
There are a lot of white people in it, but it is that sort of thing where I'm like, this is like, I have a lot of love for this little American town, wherever the hell this is supposed to be. Which they say? It's California, right? It's in California.
Is it? I don't know if I even caught where it was. It has that kind of like any town
Anywhere,
USA feeling. Yeah,
it does. It really does.
And it it's like a vacation town. It has the like boom or bust feel, that same thing Jaws does. Again, compared to that, it has the vacation town where they're kind of waiting on a seasonal event to cure them of their worries. But
there's like a couple shout outs to Jaws in the movie. Like they clearly are fans of Jaws and are trying to do, pay their respects to that movie.
Sure.
And they do a good job.
Definitely. Hey, how could you not respect it?
You see a lot more of the Blob than you see of Bruce the Shark. I'll say that much. You see the Blob big time. And you know what? It looks good. You know what I mean?
To our benefit.
It really, really looks good. What is the term for this? I'm definitely using an outdated term, but like, was it called rotoscoping? Like when they put like you see the blob moving down the street, like towards the end of the movie, and he's picking up people and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like there's like so much. There's so many cool shots like that.
Yeah,
and those like look
stuff.
The miniature work. Yeah, and that looks like it looks aged. Maybe rotoscoping is just not it at all, or not even close. So don't make fun of me, listeners of the podcast. I'm a student of film, but I also still just make mistakes constantly. But like some of the stuff looks like a little aged, but you're just like, man.
It works. Totally works.
Practical effects are so good.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Can't deny it. Folks.
Undeniable. And also, you just think if they use practical effects, if they still use practical effects, I'm looking up rotoscoping. If they use practical effects today with the technology they had, like that, it could look fantastic. I'm afraid of what a Blob movie would look like, just like a CGI Blob movie.
Ugh.
It would look. It would look horrible. Yeah.
While you look up rotoscoping, I'll just say that as far as my thoughts on the original Blob, I think it's okay. There's some solid stuff, but it's very slow, and it's mostly them talking about the Blob instead of looking at it. It was previously silicone and red vegetable dye with methyl cellulose.
That's the original Blob, or is this one?
That's the original Blob.
Okay.
And part of what I like about that movie is, first of all, I think it's very funny how much they just shoot the Blob.
Yes. It's clearly not working, and they try it multiple times.
But also, one of the cops has a line about it's part of their plan to make us look silly, and that's why he's so resistant to, like, believing them. And I think that is kind of an interesting thought of, like, where a lot of cop issues stem from, is that they have this power. They're afraid that somebody is scheming to get them to lose that power.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that even back in the 50s that this was something that was on people's minds.
Oh, 100%. No, it is weirdly timely, and also, like, honestly, it would feel like a modern movie if they made it now. There is like the small town sheriff that also hates, I will say that a sheriff gets killed off, and like you see him in the Blob, and you're like, wait, he's dead?
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild and crazy, but you're like, this was like what I thought was a main character, And then there's his little, deputy or whatever, is the guy under him. I don't know I have no idea what the terminology is, but that guy kind of has a change of heart at one point, and there it is that sort of thing of like, oh, this cop is like he's like, let's book him and put him in jail, and then he kind of has a change of heart, and then gets folded in two, gets folded backwards. Which, by the way, I mean, a great death. By the way, rotoscoping is the process of drawing animation over live action film. So like Roger Rabbit and some other stuff. I think that maybe it will technically work. I don't know. Some more film buffs will be able to correct me. I don't know if that's what they were doing here or just using miniature work, like, miniatures. And I don't know if there was any rotoscoping going on. So I maybe was just completely wrong. But who knows?
Could be. There very could be.
I'm just going to go with a who knows. But so the guy who plays that deputy or whatever, I have delivered DVDs to his house.
Wow.
When I worked for the show Shark, I delivered DVDs, and his name is Paul McCrane. He's Deputy Bill Briggs in the movie. And he's also in RoboCop. He's the guy who gets toxic waste spilled on him in RoboCop.
Perfect. This is a whole movie of that.
Truly. And also like two moments where he is basically just like evaporated within toxic sludge. But also that guy has some fucking gnarly deaths. This one in this movie, and then that RoboCop death is just is fucked.
It really
is.
It's
still fucked.
God.
It's
He's
still
like begging
fucking
for
awful.
help.
Jesus, explodes on a car. It's fucking. It's nasty.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which I love. I mean, he should be proud. That's two cool roles. Yeah,
iconic for sure.
He directed a couple episodes of the show Shark when I worked on that show, starring James Woods, someone who also I maybe don't politically align with, but I would deliver cuts to his house in L.A. But he's great. The cast is actually pretty good in the movie too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this ties in. It's a meta thing with Entourage, the show that everyone loves and it still holds up. Kevin Dillon,
Johnny Drama himself. He was like an 80s B-movie star basically, and this is him in an actual role like that, and he does a pretty good job. And Shawnee Smith too. Yeah,
I had a crush on her when I was younger, and that crush, I mean, I think that she is maybe 20 years old in this movie. She's great in it. She goes on to horror fame in the Saw series too, right?
That's right. Yeah. We also get Donovan Leitch in here as Paul Taylor. So you got Paul Taylor and Meg Penny, two first name characters. Feels very strange to me.
You know what? I agree with that. That is kind of strange. Wait, who does he play?
He plays the guy who it seems like is going to be the main dude of the story, and then he gets got in the hospital.
Yes. Donovan Leitch. Paul Taylor.
Yeah. Meg
Penny, Brian Flagg. All the names are kind of lacking. I think Donovan Leitch is actually pretty good in the movie too.
Yeah, definitely.
He is as kind of the fake out guy. It's also that sort of thing of like, when they kill him, you're like, I feel sad for this guy. He wasn't like he wasn't
really gets fucked in this movie.
He really gets fucked. He wasn't that big of a dick. He is kind of like, I mean, obviously he's a little bit weary of Kevin Dillon's character of Flagg.
Yeah.
But he's not a bad guy. But outside of that, you know what I mean? He's like,
yeah.
He's on the football team. He seems like a nice guy. He asks his girl. His friend is probably the douchiest one in the movie. And he also gets got too in a pretty good way.
He gets his just desserts for sure.
Yeah. But Donovan is like not also my middle name, by the way. Great name.
There you go.
He's not a bad guy. And he
tries to help the guy with the shit on his arm.
Yeah.
Once they hit him.
And then it just fucking
pays the price.
Gruesome.
Yeah.
Gruesome death.
I do want to set up a little bit of the context of the movie.
For sure.
The Blob is one of several 80s body horror remakes of 50s classics that have their own merits. Mostly people talk about the auteur-led The Thing and The Fly, and I think that auteur classification is part of why. Because they're part of, like, the director's canon. People are like, oh, it's a classic Cronenberg or a classic Carpenter movie. Whereas The Blob, I think, is more willing to accept its roots as a B-movie.
Sure.
You know, it's a little more campy and comedic and retains that Anytown feeling.
That's a good breakdown. Yeah.
You know, there's a little bit of cynicism in this movie compared to its original because the virus is man-made in this one. But,
I love that. I do. I actually do. I forgot that plot point, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's great. It is
great.
I love it. Yeah.
It does get kind of left behind when people are talking about these movies, and I think not correctly. I think that this movie does stand toe-to-toe with these two incredible other movies that get talked about much more frequently. And you can even see sort of the influence of Invasion of the Body Snatchers trickling down into it.
Sure, yeah. The Thing is like in my top 20 movies. I love The Thing. It's such a great movie. I think that we had talked at one point and I loved it. I've just talked about The Thing over and over again. I don't know if it's worth ever talking about, but I love that movie. The Fly is great too. I actually do truly think The Fly is like a hard movie to watch. I owe it a rewatch. It is just so fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
It's one of my favorites because it is genuinely difficult for me to watch. Like it is
brutal.
When he like squeezes his finger and like all the pus shoots out, I'm just like, what am I doing here?
The arm breaking, like the breaking the guy's arm. There's just so much shit that is like, you fucker, Cronenberg. Jesus Christ. It's really almost too much. And I love it for that reason. But man, a hard watch. We talked
about it with Joe Wangert on this show, and it was
hell yeah, Joe rules.
Yeah, it was really great episode because I had such a fun time revisiting it, and really, now that I knew where it went, being able to really soak in all of the effects and everything, just really great. So yeah, check out that app if you haven't yet.
Yeah, check it out for sure. Yeah. So when I was on a sketch show called The Birthday Boys, this was my sketch group, there was a producer on the movie. I'm sorry, on the TV show that was. So Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder plays Les Grossman.
Right. And
it says here that it's based on Scott Rudin, but it's not. It's based on the producer. It's Ben Stiller's producer, and his name is slipping my mind, and I am sad because he was a great guy, and also he just recently passed away. But I will figure out who it is. But he was telling he was also a producer on The Fly, and he told me some crazy. He told me some crazy stuff about The Fly, which I think they do. I think a little bit is in the deleted scenes, but he falls off a building and an arm, like an extra arm, comes out of his.
Oh man!
Do you know about that? Like an extra arm comes out of it, like his body, and he like catches a flag. He was like trying to kill himself, but like an other arm like pops out of like the side of his chest and catches onto a flagpole. And then there was also like some scene with a dog or something where I think he puked on a fucking dog.
Oh yeah, and he goes
like
to eat the dog. That's how he eats, right?
Yes. By the way, it just came to me. Because in my name I was thinking Stuart Burns, who worked at The Simpsons, and not Stuart Burns. It's Stuart Kornfeld. It finally came to me. Great guy. He passed away sadly just a few years ago, a couple of years ago now in 2020. But he was great. Yeah, he worked on The Fly, and there was like another dog scene.
Wow.
There was also like I think in the deleted scenes there is like a notorious like scene with a chimp or something, right? Isn't there also like a
there's also the cat scene where they like the cat becomes fused with with the chimp, right? It's grim. There's some grim stuff where it's like I kind of get why, like it could easily become unrelenting and become too much. I think that there is just the right amount of grotesquerie in the movie.
I think so too. I mean, like I don't understand why some of that stuff, like obviously that there's no animals being hurt, and it is like this is the horrible side of science that like this is what this movie is kind of is breaking down and showing you of like this man who's like trying to do something for science and then the grotesque results of it. And I don't know why that bothers people, but I get it. There's some stuff I don't like to like. I don't like to see bones snap. Right. There's things that I just don't like to see. But when you're showing like, hey, this is science with all its warts and everything here, and like the man fused a monkey and a cat. I'm a huge cat lover, but also I can put aside that I know that this is not real, obviously, But yeah, I get it in the way that I am like just watching that movie and just like this is like making me feel sick when fucking Brundlefly is like puking on stuff and melting it. Again, melting stuff.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, there's a lot of goop in the late 80s.
Too much goop.
Well, hey, I don't know if I can co-sign that.
Just enough. Just enough goop.
Yeah,
how's that?
Okay, that I'm on board for.
All right.
This movie has a screenplay by Frank Darabont.
Oh, that's right.
Who has directed a bunch of great Stephen King adaptations and writer of much more, including Nightmare on Elm Street 3. So that's another classic horror.
I love Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That's some people say that's their favorite of the bunch, right? I weirdly like 4.
4 is fun. I like 2, honestly. I mean, one is really, I think, pretty great as well, but 2, that's a fun one. I think that people don't give it its fair due.
4 has some of the effects by that guy screaming Mad George or whatever his name is, right?
Yeah.
And those are just like, man, that when Freddy turns, I think I maybe even brought this up in the last episode, but when Freddy turns that woman into a cockroach, that is also a fucking gnarly scene. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the same one where like he turns into the motorcycle and like fuses with the guy and it turns into like Tetsuo.
Yeah. That's fucking wild.
Yeah. But Frank Darabont wrote Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and he worked with director Chuck Russell, who directed Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Wow.
So that's where they met. And Chuck Russell also would direct The Mask in 1994. Somebody stop him.
No shit.
Yeah.
No shit, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Has he not done stuff recently? Is he like what was his post-Mask career?
Wow, great question. Let's take a look. He looks like he's producing stuff like Collateral, but yeah, not a lot of directing. Looks like there's 4 movies of his that he directed in post-production. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's so weird to me. I mean, The Mask was like a huge hit, right?
Yeah. It was. I think that it looks like he directed The Scorpion King here. That might have put him in director's jail a little bit.
Scorpion King. Okay, so that was after The Mummy 2.
Yeah.
That was like The Rock. It's crazy though that it also like launched The Rock kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was like The Rock's like first huge movie, I feel like.
Yeah, he had his tiny little role in 2, and then they were like, get this guy a full feature.
Yeah. I auditioned for like a direct-to-DVD role in one of those, like the Scorpion King 3 or something. I auditioned for a role in it, yeah.
You could have been the Beetle Baron.
Oh, how I prayed I would be the Beetle Baron, and then I was never the Beetle Baron.
Damn it.
I know. It's fucked up.
They made that show about the big bad Beetle Baron.
Could have been in the Mummy extended universe, which, hey, for me, I'm a Mummy 1 guy. Can they ever capture the spirit of Mummy 1 again? I don't know.
Hard to say. Seems unlikely.
I feel like they should try to do another movie, right? Why not? With reboots and everything?
I mean,
come on.
That Tom Cruise one was so bad.
Oh, God, I forgot about it. That was such a disappointment. I mean, I love Cruise movies because they're like, he's a weirdo that loves movies, and you can tell. And the trailer for that in the plane, I was like, this looks fucking crazy. And then just the rest of the movie was so bad. Killed the Dark Universe.
Yeah, one and done.
No more Dark Universe. It's so crazy.
Yeah. We were talking about Cronenberg before. The cinematography for this movie was done by Mark Irwin, frequent Cronenbone collaborator.
Wow.
It was made right on the cusp of the CGI takeover. And I think for that reason, the Blob is like a snapshot of a high watermark of practical creature effects work. And you look at the team who worked on it, and the creature effects were done by Lyle Conway and Stuart Ziff, who Lyle Conway worked a lot with the Henson Company on movies like Dark Crystal, Return to Oz, Great Muppet Caper, Little Shop of Horrors, and also Blade. Amazing.
Okay, wow.
What a run.
Yeah, that's a good resume. Jeez.
Yeah. And Stuart Ziff had worked with Phil Tippett on movies like A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and would go on to be an engineer and model maker for Jurassic Park, Starship Troopers, and more.
Dear God!
So no surprise that this is incredible.
It makes sense. It makes sense that this movie rules.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of gotten myself into a little blob position right here. I don't know if you noticed. I'm a tired man. I've kind of laid down on the couch and I'm blobbing out myself right now.
I respect it.
You know what? I think for what we're talking about, I think it's okay. I think I should get a pass.
Definitely.
It's not surprising that this, I mean, like Darabont and all these and just all these guys that you just listed, you're like, oh man, it is. And like I said before, like the cast is good too. there's like, I think that there's definitely, and I think it was a part of what they were going for, like you said, there's definitely a B-movie vibe to it, and there's some wonkiness to it. Like watching it at the end of the movie, I was just like, this movie, if it had a better score, the score is like very 80s, like, you know what I mean? Like there's like a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
Not to say that's like, you know, like a lot of, I guess, Terminator or something. Not to poo-poo the Terminator score, because the Terminator rules, but there's just like kind of like 80s, and I'm like, if this had like a better score, I feel like it would change, it would plus this movie up even more. And I feel like it needs to, I feel like weirdly, because it's 90 minutes or whatever, maybe 94 minutes, I forgot the exact length.
95 minutes.
I almost wish that some stuff like could breathe a little more. I feel like you'd have to cut some scenes, but I'm like, there's like moments that I almost wanted to like even breathe a little more. Not to say that there aren't moments that they don't let breathe in the movie, but there are just like, there are times in this movie that it's just moving really quick.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I like love everything I'm seeing here. Let's play with them in the sewer with the blob or whatever a little more, you know? Like I'd love to see them fucking running around the sewer and figuring stuff out in the sewer.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, but it makes sense that all these great people worked on it because it's good.
Yeah, and our linchpin, in my opinion, is of course Tony Gardner with the makeup effects.
Yeah,
he had worked under Rick Baker at just 19 on the Thriller video.
Oh wow, okay.
And then at 20, he had his first solo job for Return of the Living Dead, replacing the previous artist with just 2 weeks left and lots of pressure from producers, and then knocks it out of the park.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he was hired for this job when he was 23, but he lied and said he was 25 to get the job.
Wow. That's so crazy.
This quote where he said, "That seems to be the magic age where people say, he's young, but maybe he's old enough that we can trust him with that $500,000. And so he did 41 effects in 7 months of half-dissolved bodies and whatnot.
Oh my God, dude. Just thinking of what a dumbass I was at 23 and 25 and 39, which I am now. I'm just like, that blows me away. That's really impressive.
Really incredible. And they're using top-of-the-line stuff, really technologically advanced at the time. They had Donovan Leitch scanned from the collarbone up, and then had a computer-operated lathe put those coordinates back into 3D with a 6-inch carving wax replication, which then that goes into the blob.
Jesus.
On the cutting edge, for sure.
Yeah.
The blob itself was puppeteered through what they called the blob quilt, which was lycra and silk blankets layered together with, quote, ravioli-sized pockets.
Wow.
Of course, the classic comparison that everybody knows.
Sounds tasty.
Of an additive called methosil used to thicken gravy, and that would seep through the silk. And then this combined with 100 gallons of hexoplasm, which is sold as slime, vinyl, urethane foam, and latex foam to make a seemingly liquid but also 200-pound sheet that they said was a nightmare to operate and even worse to light.
That sounds horrible. A 200-pound slimy sheet? That sounds really awful.
Yeah.
I mean, worth it. It looks fucking gross and weird and awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you get like those like standalone, like when Donovan like looks up at the ceiling and it's like on like in those moments when it was like falling on people, it really looks fucking cool. It looks really impressive.
You're right. It is totally worth it. I think it looks incredible. But there was this funny quote where Jeff Farley, who was a Creature Effects crew member, said, quote, "There was not a day where the puppeteering crew would not go home covered in slime. We'd wear plastic garbage bags to try and cover ourselves, but it never worked."
Wow.
Gotta embrace the slime.
Yeah, that's rough. when we were like shooting Tomorrow War or whatever it was, that sort of thing of like, oh, you're just gonna be like wet all day. That is just, you know, like you make a choice like that and it's like someone's got to live with this throughout the rest of the movie. You know what I mean? It's like this equals like maybe like 30 days of some person just like being soggy all day for 12 hours. That's just is what happens, you know? And with the blob, I guess it's that sort of thing of like, hey, we're going to be like slimy for a full like 3 months or whatever dealing with this fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's wild.
You know, you also mentioned earlier I think it is interesting that the movie does kind of get less bloody as it goes on. It's still very grotesque and everything, but
yeah,
it does make sense from like a shock value standpoint, but also does fit the characterization of the Blob, which Tony Gardner pointed out. He said, quote, "It hasn't eaten its whole meal as a baby, so there's more blood, but later it's hitting them and draining them instantly." And so it does, you know, you, in addition to not just wanting you to get bored of it, they also are like, yeah, it makes sense from the character standpoint.
For sure, yeah. And it still has just those moments when it's like enveloped, like, you know, some like a person completely, and you just see them fucking melting.
Yeah. It also came out into an incredibly busy 1988 summer, so the competition definitely pushed it towards being a flop. Movies coming out around the same time, Friday the 13th, Part 7, Willow, Big, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Coming to America, Die Hard, and Midnight Run, and Cocktail all came out in the weeks prior.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Dear Lord. I mean, Who Framed Roger Rabbit's one of my favorite movies. Also, I think there was rotoscoping in that movie, that's for sure.
For sure.
That's Part 7 also. Is that Manhattan?
Part 7 is the New Blood one. That's the one with the Carrie ripoff stuff.
Oh, yes. I actually kind of like that one. I know
it's
that
fun.
People...
It is a fun one.
Yeah. What is Jason Takes Manhattan? Is that the next one, or is that 6?
Yeah, that's 8. That's 8.
That's 8. Okay.
And then in the next couple weeks, additional movies that would come out included The Last Temptation of Christ, Young Guns, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So there you go, Dream Master.
Jesus. Hey, 4. I like 4.
Yeah.
Man, that is... Wow, what a different time. That's really crazy.
Yeah, and so with all these movies coming out and acting as competition, The Blob made just over $8 million on its $19 million budget, so around less than half, but still a success in our hearts. Also released in 19... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go, you're going to say released on VHS?
Oh, I was going to say also released in 1988, the best horror movie ever made, Child's Play.
Wow. Well, there we go. There's another connection to it. That was not the one I was thinking.
That was why I nodded yes earlier.
Yeah, see? I told you. I'll go ahead and tell you why I think that they're very similar.
Do it.
Child's Play. So this is, now that I know the context of this, because I told you that when Child's Play was coming out, and it was on pay-per-view, it scared me so much because you could watch the first 5 minutes of the pay-per-view movie, and you could still kind of hear it sometimes. This is I'm fucking ancient now, it feels like, but this is, back in 89, maybe, I was 6 years old. And the idea of Child's Play, the thing that scared me about Child's Play is that it's this doll, this little toy doll, and specifically it wants to hurt the child, this other child, Andy. It wants to hurt Andy. It wants to basically kill Andy. And as a kid, that's terrifying. You know what I mean? Because you're one, you always think that a kid is going to be okay. And two, it's this relatable thing of this doll that everyone, I talked on Doughboys how I had a Mickey Mouse doll that I thought attacked me. But there's it's just that sort of thing of, man, this cute little thing in my room wants to murder me is terrifying. And just as a kid too, just the fact that a child could die, this child was in risk. Cut to The Blob, which I did see probably a couple years after, when I saw it when it was on TV, the Sunday matinee or whatever. But they showed the full, they showed a lot of more gruesome stuff on TV back then on cable or whatever. And there is a child that dies in the movie, and it is very effective. I still don't even know if I like that the kid dies, but as a child seeing that, I was like, holy shit, the Blob killed this kid? You know what I mean? I was just this is crazy. You know what I mean? It just really blew my mind of the fucking little kid got dissolved. And you see that in that moment when it's Johnny Smith's brother's friend or whatever, who again, not really that annoying, just kind of like a kid, not that bad. I criticize Jurassic World for when the babysitter has a gruesome death. I don't think you always need to have someone be an asshole to have a gruesome death, of course not. But I criticize that movie for that. And in this movie, I'm just man, this kid gets fucking murked, and it's so fucking horrible. And you see his skull, and it's just a quick glimpse when he jumps up, and you just see him for a minute there. But that,
it's enough.
It's stuck with me truly. I remember it vividly from when I was a kid, just being whoa, what the fuck did I just see? And that fear of like, this movie is not fucking around. This movie is like now terrifying to me because they made that decision to and there's not a lot, like there's a few, I Googled it after this and there was like I don't know if it was on a Fangoria thing or I forget what website I was looking at, but it was about children being murdered in horror movies. And it's like a thing that you don't see too often, obviously it's kind of a horrible thing to think about. And it happens in like it, you know what I mean? It happens in like a few other things. So rarely do you see a child get killed by the monster in its monstrous ways. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we see this kid get enveloped by the blob and then start to melt within the blob. And that he's like suffering. Mm-hmm. And that is like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
It totally is.
And I don't even know if I love it. I think that it was effective to, 8-year-old me or however old I was when I saw this on TV. Mm-hmm. But man, it's brutal.
It is brutal. It's so interesting to me because, people talk about like the Friday the 13th franchise in particular, I think stands out. And like, there weren't even campers at the camp until 6.
Yeah. Yes.
And none of those kids actually die in those movies. And so for
Corey Feldman is like the only one in danger ever, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they really do go for the gusto with this one. And I watched this movie last night with my friend Sean.
E. Smith?
Yeah. Sean Smith. My best bud.
Sean E. Smith. His middle name is Evan.
Yeah.
Sean Evan Smith.
We were in Saw Traps together.
Did he have a similar...
Yeah, we like looked at each other and like, yeah, so I literally knew that was coming and we still were like, whoa, I can't believe that they did it.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is. I will say, I think that the choice is helped by the fact that at several points in this movie, I am like shocked at how willing they are to kill main characters.
Yeah.
Paul Taylor gets killed. The sheriff gets killed. Mm-hmm. The owner of owner of the diner who like the sheriff is making eyes at.
I can't believe she dies too. Like I remembered certain things about it, and obviously the kid getting eaten by the blob is like the one I remembered the most. But another thing I remembered was, the Donovan getting eaten at the blob in the beginning and then like reaching out.
Yeah.
And then his arm getting pulled off. And like, but I kind of forgot that I was like, oh, I didn't realize that he was like the main character when I was watching it. Like when I was, you know what I mean? I haven't seen it in like quite a few years. And I was like, oh, I forgot that this is kind of a bit of a psycho move. And then with the woman in the diner, I was like, I knew that someone got killed in a phone booth because I remembered that specifically. But I forgot that like when I saw her run outside and then I saw the phone booth nearby, I was like, oh, fuck, it is her. I was like trying to figure out who it was, and I was like, "Oh, it's her." And then when she was in there, and I saw the sheriff in there, I was like, "Oh, fuck, the sheriff is dead too." Like there was like a lot of things coming back to me. It really is a 1-2 punch. And then like I knew that McCrane, I knew that he got killed at some point, but you just are like, I have no idea who is gonna get offed. And there's also another thing that I remember vividly is when the blob tentacles come through the sewer. I think just that entire scene. Like when they go down to the sewer, I just remember so much of that. But the tentacles coming down through the sewer grate and then
grabbing her hair
and her hair burning, which is great.
Yeah, it really is
really great. Yeah.
I love that. And I also, you mentioned the moment where Paul Taylor is reaching out and his arm snaps off. And that's actually the cover of the VHS.
Yes, that is also why I remember it. That is what it is. That's crazy.
Very memorable cover. It definitely helped it to find new life there and make some more of its money back. And it is great. And that is definitely part of why it is, if not the best horror movie ever made, certainly a very interesting one.
Also, I just also want to say that I'm even trying to think of which is like more. I guess that the Paul Taylor guy is that death is maybe a little bit more gruesome because you see him reaching out and then you also kind of see his skull begin to like melt.
Right.
But I will say that Shawnee Smith tells that little kid before he dies, she tells him he's going to be okay, which is also a crazy thing. She's like, you're gonna be okay. And then moments later, he's getting dissolved. It's really crazy.
He's not going to be okay.
He's not gonna be okay.
All right, I'm going to try and cruise through this plot.
All right, let's do it.
So, Starfield credits, it turns into this ski town, but more like a ghost town. And our first actor is a very cute little cat cruising around the town.
I made eyes on that cat.
Clocked it.
And also, you're just like thinking about like, there's an animal handler there, and they let this cat out, and then the cat like kind of runs, and then it also kind of looks back at the screen. Whenever a cat is like looking right into the lens, or in any animal, it's so funny. It's like the cat is looking directly at the viewer. Cute little cat, though.
Definitely.
But that quiet opening is great.
It is, and it turns out that part of the reason why it's so quiet is not only because it's a seasonal town, but also because they're all there for the high school football game.
That's right.
Paul Taylor impresses the hell out of Meg Penny. Timing is everything, though, so he asks her out on a date after getting crushed by a tackle when she comes to check on him.
I honestly was impressed just with the whole football game itself. I was like, hey, this is like a lot of extras. It looks like they're actually playing football here. It's cute. It's a cute little setup. It's a cute setup to the movie with that ominous feeling going on, too. It's going to get bad soon.
Yeah. We also get our first glimpse in the stands of big-time comedy icon Del Close as Reverend Meeker.
Wow. Del Close, this is so crazy to me because like I also so specifically remember his character from the movie, and then obviously at the end, which we'll talk about. But like I so remember that character, and then to like, you know, study comedy, you know, at UCB, especially where like they taught basically what Del Close was teaching for years and years. And he is like, you know, an icon to so many of those people and is kind of like this goofy reverend in this movie. It's really funny.
It is great. He's also in the original Blob sequel, Beware the Blob, in 1972.
No shit.
Yeah.
There was also another connection. He's been in 2 Dillon Brothers movies. That's what I saw.
Oh shit.
He was like he was in Matt Dillon and Kevin Dillon movie. Yeah, look, he did a lot of great things. A lot of people respected him, but that Reverend character is really funny and wacky, and
yeah, I love it.
And it's wild to think about, like right now, like while they were filming this, 87, like the legendary people he had worked with and was gonna work with. It's like when this movie came out, he was probably had been teaching Chris Farley, and like Farley was about to go off to SNL. You know what I mean? Like there's just like. The history of that is so funny. I just like imagine like all these Second City Chicago people going to see the Blob together or something. I'm sure they did.
Sorry, Chris, we have to put our lessons on hold so I can go be a major character in the Blob.
I'm sure Farley was like killing it at this point, but like that whole comedy world. I'm sure that this was. I'm gonna actually talk to some of my Chicago people who came up in the Chicago scene back then and see if like they went and saw the Blob. I'm sure that they did.
They also don't want you to make any mistake about Kevin Dillon's Brian Flagg. When we meet him, he's a bad boy. Leather jacket, cigarette, beer, motorcycle. He's hanging out at a busted old bridge, troll style.
He really is. And I did write, why was Dillon trying to jump the bridge? But you know what? The movie answers it. There's a reason why he's trying to jump that bridge.
That's what you do, man. You have to jump Snake Canyon.
It is confusing where I'm like, why is he trying to do this now? I don't really get what's going on. The old man's there and laughs when he wipes out. But I mean, so you're introduced to the old character, and he kind of likes the old guy, it seems like. But what was the point of that? Also, is he maybe in high school? I can't tell what his he's like. Is he a senior or something? Because he's about to turn 18, right?
Yeah, I think he might have dropped out. And I honestly, I think that part of the whole point of this is just to be like, because he cowards out of the jump at the last second. He wipes out. And so I think that might just be being like, hey, he looks out for himself, number one.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Gives him a little more art. It's not communicated super clearly.
Sure, yeah.
This, the old man and his dog clapping sarcastically is very funny, though.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, over at the town diner, Sheriff Herb Geller and Fran Hewitt lament the lean year that the town has had and how quiet things are. He asks her on a date, too. There's only been 3 interactions so far, and 2 of them have wound up asking about a date.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Kevin Dillon didn't ask the homeless guy on a date, too, because they do say dogs are a great way to meet people.
I was going to say, like, in like my 18 years of life, like I don't even know if I asked anyone out on a date. I was like so scared and terrified. like maybe once. And then I'm like, it happens like so many times in the start of this movie. People are just dating left and right.
It's crazy out here in Blob Town.
And then Donovan's friend is also looking for dates.
That's
Everyone's
right.
going nuts.
Fran says that it's hard for her to get away, but she writes on the receipt that she gets off at 11. Hot dang. On the way out, though, Sheriff Herb spots Brian smoking another cigarette and says, "Hey, I heard you're turning 18. No more fucking up or it's big boy jail now," before cruising off. And you're like, oh, this guy like is also kind of a scumbag. Like it's such an interesting setup that you see him be like charming to the Steiner lady and then immediately be like a fucking asshole to this kid.
It's pretty great. It is like the gray area of like all these people are kind of like, and that's kind of why it works for me. Is like Paul Taylor isn't that bad of a guy. The sheriff isn't that bad of the guy. Like they also come around on Dylan's character. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's kind of like people think he's scummy, but then he proves himself. But like the Blob doesn't care. The Blob just doesn't care about what anyone's character development is. It's just eating people.
Yeah. And Brian is also clearly like a shop class kid.
Yeah.
He struts into the nearby mechanic shop and they're clearly on good terms, him and Moss Woodley, the mechanic. And he borrows a ratchet set to fix his bike.
That's right. Yep. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And Moss says that a storm is coming. And as he says that, a meteor streaks to Earth. The guy with his dog go to check it out, and it looks amazing. It's disgustingly pink. What a great unnatural color for something that's moving.
It's great. You know what's coming.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to happen. And it's just like, man, if you ever find something in the woods that fell from space, just like, don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Do not touch it, even with a stick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can maybe touch it with a stick and then like, but don't hold on to the stick. You know what I mean? Like, get rid of it.
Javelin the stick in. See how it reacts.
Man, a creep show, same thing. Stephen King himself. Don't touch it.
That's the lesson you should take away from this.
I feel like maybe that was COVID, the COVID origins. COVID came down to Earth in a comet, and then someone just went up and touched it. Because everyone is just touching shit that falls from the sky.
We see these guys not wearing their masks when they go.
Yeah, that's true. Wear the fucking mask too. I mean, that's another thing that kind of hits home is like he's contagious and shit, and like people wearing these like these suits and everything.
I just also really love that it is, even though we know it's coming, it's not overly telegraphed in the terms of like there's not a crazy sting with the score or anything, and it's not. It's not like a crazy edit. He just, all of a sudden, it's on the stick, and then it jumps up. And where the impact really comes in is through the, like, Kuleshov effect of it then going to the Jell-O and the kids slurping it up.
Yes, that's great. Also weird that they're, like, slurping Jell-O off their plates. They had Jell-O for dessert, I guess, is what the deal is, I guess. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, man, I'm not too good to admit that I slurped up Jell-O a few times in my time.
Hey, I like to slurp up Jell-O. It just is. It's funny when they match it to that. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. And these kids are intending to go see Garden Tool Massacre, which is your basic slice and dice where a dude in a hockey mask chops up a few teenagers. But don't worry, no sex or anything bad in it, the kid says.
That's funny.
For a second, I was like, oh, a Garden Tool Massacre reference. That's fun. But it turns out that the English SOV classic didn't come out until 1997. So now I'm wondering if that name is a reference to this.
Oh, wow. I love that. Because, I mean, I want to watch more of that movie. It's great.
Oh, yeah. It's very fun. Paul arrives to take Meg on their date, and I like the suspicious brother answering the door. That's a fun trope that doesn't really get used very much anymore. There's also a funny payoff here to Paul and his friend Scott buying condoms at the pharmacy, where it turns out that her dad is the pharmacist. What a great, like, him behind the newspaper all folded up in front of his face.
Great reveal to that weird condom buying scene, which is a very weird scene where the guy goes in and he really wants to buy, he borrows cash so that he can buy ribbed condoms. And then the Reverend is also there. And like, this almost feels like, this, like when I talk about like Americana, I'm like, this is almost like what people, when they say make America great again, this is like why they want to go back to like this weird time. Where
the priest makes you feel bad.
Yeah, the priest will tell you not to buy condoms. Anyways.
Brian is fixing his motorcycle, but gets spooked because the blobbed man jumps out and tries to cut off his arm. which does promptly get compressed by the blob, which stops it, and he runs off with Brian going after him. Yeah, it is
cool
very
sequence
cool.
there. Yeah.
Paul, though, hits the blob man when he runs into the middle of the road, and they go to get him some help. And I really love the interactions between Brian and Paul here. I think they do a great job with the, like, bristling at each other, making it feel like it's a real relationship, like there's some history there.
Sure, yeah. And again, like, neither is really a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, neither seems like too bad of a guy, so...
Yeah, right. It's just like they don't get along, but they're not like at each other's throats necessarily.
Yeah,
just bristling. The cynical nature of things, though, does ooze up here again, though, with their opinion of the medical field and the way the nurse doesn't want to help, asking about insurance and generally looking disgusted by the guy. And Brian says, these people don't give a shit about explanations.
It's great. I mean, like, and also, like, that, I think that's the other thing that unites these two guys is these two guys who are kind of at each other, and they bring in this older man who he's maybe unhoused. This feels like something it feels relevant today. It's that sort of thing of like, oh, this is the fucking the medical world is so fucked up. Like they're asking if this guy has coverage. He's hurt. He needs help. And this is another reason why you like both these guys, because they both are kind of like, well, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
It is great. And Paul goes to get a soda for Meg, but he sees some movement on the guy's body and he investigates. It's in his throat and he's all fucked up. It's just a half a body.
It's cool as hell. Him being dissolved it's about to get even. It's about to get even crazier. But it was like, damn. And then like a few seconds later, it's like, damn. Fucking, all right, you guys you went all out just a few seconds later.
Yeah, and I love he goes and grabs Dr. Jack Nance, who I'm always thrilled to see Jack Nance in a movie, but I love it. It's kind of dark humor, but I did think it was funny where he's in the middle of discussing like end of life options for some poor lady's husband when this teenager comes bowling in screaming about someone dying in the next room.
Yeah. It's great. And, they were right to come in screaming about it because, how often do you see a fucking dissolved dude? There are not many flimsy parts of the movies, and I don't even think this is a flimsy part of the movie, but I do think it's that, like, it's like, hey, the guy's fucking dissolved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, Jack Nance's face is exactly how I feel looking at it. Paul calls for the sheriff, but the blob is climbing up behind him, the acid dripping down and melting the desk and then dropping down as he looks up. Just what a wonderful moment, especially because it cuts and you just hear a scream and you think, oh man, they're not going to show it, until Meg runs in and is greeted by like one of the most monstrous sights imaginable.
Oh man, it's just ruthless. It's just such a ruthless death. And like, again, he was a nice enough guy, but shit.
He turns into that painting, The Scream. Like his jaw like extends and it's truly grotesque.
It's gnarly.
When she grabs his arm to pull, the arm just rips off and she goes flying back while it twitches on the floor.
Ugh.
For the effect of Smith pulling Leach's undigested arm off, the crew made use of an over-the-shoulder, quote, blob sled, which consisted of an arm rig with a quick-release mechanism fitted with a fake appendage, and then Smith would fight against a crew member with a pistol grip release, providing resistance with the sled. Quote, then all the tendons would stream out and she'd go flying, Gardner recalls. The take they used was the one where the operator got a little trigger happy and let go before she was expecting it, so the look of surprise was really genuine.
They got the take. She maybe got hurt. They got the take.
Ellen Burstyn style in The Exorcist. This is where we get our psycho move, where we realize that Paul isn't our Steve McQueen stand-in, that Meg, his girlfriend, is. Or, I mean, girlfriend seems generous, considering that they didn't even make it onto their first date.
Yeah, it was one date. Yeah, yep.
And the rug pull, I think, is especially effective because Paul doesn't just die, he really suffers.
Yeah, he really dies.
She's escorted home by her parents while the cops say she's hysterical, and they intimate that Brian is the one who did this.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Scott is off at Lover's Lane with his date, and he makes her a drink. There's a lot to dissect in this scene. The little blender is so funny. A great addition to his well-stocked trunk bar.
The blender, yeah. There is like, where you're questioning, you're like, is this guy in this world like cool? Or he is like, obviously he's not cool in real life. he's a pretty awful guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like, what is this guy? And well, you got like this trunk with a blender in it, and this poor woman that he's trying to. He basically is very much crosses a line.
Yeah,
when she's passed out and pays the ultimate price.
He sure does.
He deserves it. He's the one who deserves it.
He is. Yeah, it is funny that I feel like he does get a pretty gnarly one as well because of his actions. So,
no, for sure.
I also do love the mini basketball hoop and the cigar box full of fake class rings and chains for them, much like the one his date is currently wearing.
That's a funny detail.
But he does come back with the drink, and it looks like she's sleeping, so he tries to cop a feel when the blob attaches to his hand. And one of the most amazing effects that I've seen in a really long time, where the date collapses in on herself, and tentacles of blob erupt from her eye holes and mouth and wave around looking for purchase on Scott.
Yes, it's great.
Really gross. Really gross.
Oh yeah. And she's getting her, that's her. I mean, she's dead. Unfortunately, She's died a horrible death. But it seems like she maybe fell asleep and was just eaten from the inside out or something. But yeah, he gets his comeuppance.
Meg's parents, 1, don't believe her, and 2, try to give her some meds to knock her out. But she knows there's still something out there, so she sneaks out. And Brian is being questioned aggressively, to say the least. This infuriating cop is a great holdover from the original, and boy, is he infuriating as he mocks Brian. But they have to let him go, though, because they have no evidence, and so he stalks out of the station before being stopped by Meg.
Dylan does a great thing here where he licks the guy from Paul McCrane from RoboCop.
Yeah.
He basically licks his face. And it's kind of great and weird. But yeah, then they reunite. They're reunited, and he doesn't believe her either.
Yeah. She gets really pissed when he doesn't believe her, and he says, I'm not interested in getting involved. Meanwhile, Fran's cook, George, shame what happens to poor George here.
Dude, another guy, just seems like a nice guy. This fucking nice guy who says he'll take over for Plunge in the Sink.
Not a fun duty, so.
No. This is another... The phone booth, and then this death is the sink death is really good, and I do remember just the sink, the pipe of the sink getting enlarging. Oh. You know what I mean? It's pretty great.
It is great, especially because you anticipate it going one way, where he reaches down into the clogged sink, and you're like, oh, it's going to pull him in through the hand, and then he pulls out his hand, and everything is fine. You go, oh, what the hell? And then suddenly it just launches out and grabs his damn face.
Fucking face, yeah, yeah. Face first.
Yeah.
Your brain is going through the drain first.
Ugh.
Pretty fucked up.
It's really disgusting. It pulls him into this drain, and it's an amazing bloody mess, and then the blob erupts up to the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Brian and Meg take cover in
cool
the
shot, by the way, when it goes up to the ceiling.
It is a very cool shot. Yeah. The blob pursues them to the freezer until it feels the cold, and it mysteriously retreats. Fran breaks out a window, and she runs down the alley to this phone booth, which does get completely engulfed in blob. It's scary as it tries to push in, and it's so great. She finally gets through the police station, and they say, oh, the sheriff already went down to the diner.
Mm-hmm.
And then he floats by all fucked up and distorted, and his eye is still moving.
Yeah. Which then, again, makes me question what goes on inside the blob.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's horrifying.
Are they kept alive? Are they a part of this big mass now? I don't know. I have no idea. It's fucked up.
The blob does finally crush in and get Fran. And yeah, like I said, I love how quick we're moving through characters that feel like they're going to be really important to the plot.
Nope. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And again, that phone booth, I mean, when that phone booth collapses, it's so great. But that was another big moment from childhood. And you were also kind of just there's 2 moments in the movie where I'm just get out of the phone booth, open the door and crawl under the blob. Right. And then also the movie theater where I'm you 2 idiot kids are back where the locked door is, which is also weird that the door is chained up. One of the exits is chained up. But I'm what the hell are you 2 idiots? People are just running by the blob, just run by it. And the kids,
get out of there.
They pay the price as well.
They sure do.
I don't know if Herb's death is maybe too off screen, but it is kind of great. I mean, like, you're actively watching it. I feel like people who aren't paying enough attention might be like, what happened to that guy? And it's, oh, there he is.
There he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Back in the freezer, Brian grabs a meat hook so he can, I guess, stab the blob, which feels even less effective than shooting it.
Yeah. You don't want to get close to the blob.
Yeah. Yeah, he's literally pulling it even closer with a hook.
Yeah. It's like acidic. You don't want to touch it in any way, but, whatever.
They emerge, though, and the diner is empty, although they get scared by a can, and Brian does stab the strawberry jam, which I took as an allusion to the way the original blob looks.
It's pretty great. I love that. I like that moment. A little nod to the blob.
Del Close sees the blob go into the sewers, and he checks in on the diner, finding a few frozen chunks of blobs that he collects in a little mason jar there.
Del Close is on the scene, and that leads to that ending that we'll get to, but that's just that kind of a memorable ending. But
yeah, very.
He is a little weirdo in this movie, and evangelical kind of thinks that this is a Judgment Day sort of thing.
Right. Brian and Meg head into the woods looking for the deputy they heard was going to the place Brian found the old man. And it's dark and spooky. I mean, there's so much fog in this movie. I really love the way that this looks.
Oh, it's great.
And suddenly there's helicopters and a biological containment team in hazmat suits pointing guns at them. We're here to help, says Dr. Meadows, who gives the fictitious explanation that the dinosaurs were killed by alien bacteria brought by the meteor, and that they're here to stop the same thing from happening again. I love this line that Kevin Dillon says, "If it's a germ, it's the biggest son of a bitch you've ever seen."
Yeah, that's great. He's good in it. Him and Shawnee are both good in it. They're delivering some funny, weird, intentionally funny, and then sometimes some corny lines that they just deliver them great. I think they both do really well in this movie. How do you feel about these scientist dudes at this point? This is to me is the big difference, right, between the Blob movies is all these guys in hazmat suits or whatever the hell these white suits are.
Yeah.
I love the fact that that's a weapon from the United States government. It's an interesting thing where I almost feel like the movie could have worked maybe without these guys too, but it adds some fun flavor to it, and there's some cool deaths because of it. But there is we'll get more into it, but there is a little bit when stuff does get a little flimsy. It is Kevin Dillon overhearing, these guys talking about the blob and how they're going to contain it in the sewer, and that Shawnee Smith is in the sewer or whatever. But yeah.
I do think it pays off well enough that I'm happy that they're in there. I remember the first time watching this being feeling really shocked that they were introducing a bunch of new characters halfway into the movie. I was what are they doing here after they just killed off so many people? But I think it does pay off in a good enough way. I also think that it's important that they show that it's not just a monolith. We see the people being I don't agree with what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah.
I think that's a great moment that does help to make it feel a little more well-rounded and not just something that they're slotting in.
You also think that guy will maybe I mean, I guess you don't really see what happens to him, but you're oh, I hope he lives, and then you just don't ever really see him again.
Yeah. Dude, you expect him to get shot right there, even.
I mean, you kind of do. And then, and you know what? I mean, Dr. Meadows or whoever Joe Seneca plays, he is a pretty fun, you know what I mean? He's a fun bad guy. I think there's a world where it could have worked without this stuff, but I also don't hate it for being in it. So I'm torn in it. I think that there is some weak stuff to this part of the movie, but I also am still enjoying the ride. So
yeah. The boys did indeed make it to their movie. Garden Tool Massacre, like we said, looks pretty fun.
Looks fun. A little Jason-y.
Yeah, very Jason-y even, I would say.
Yeah, not a little, a lot Jason-y, yes.
In the projector room, the AC stops working, and the projectionist gets devoured when he sticks his head in the vent. The manager goes to check on him and finds him glued to the ceiling and gets devoured himself. And I gotta say, it's really kind of impressive how many different gross and fun ways they found to depict the screenplay direction's Guy Melts.
Yes, 100%. This is great because they show him using a yo-yo, and then basically the yo-yo comes down from the blob, and you see, and this guy is this guy's really melted in a fucked up way too, where you're also questioning what is going on with the blob, because this guy's half dissolved and he looks really fucking weird.
Yeah.
and is also still yo-yoing. I guess the yo-yo is just kind of falling from him. I don't know what the deal is. He really looks fucked up. Like, obviously he looks fucked up, but it's like it looks like he's been dissolved for a little while here. Also, this is probably how I would die if the AC was not working. I would be like, what the fuck's happening? I'd be so mad trying
Just
to figure out what's going on
there.
I think I would probably stick my head in there. So
that's how you get blobbed.
Rest in peace and amen to this air conditioning man who wanted just a cooler room to sit in.
We recognize the sacrifice.
He's kind of a hero. Yeah. The whole theater scene is just fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really what I remember. I remember this in the sewer maybe just the most is just it's so great.
Yeah. Brian and Meg are ushered into a van, but he's skeptical, not only because he's skeptical of everyone in a position of power, but also because this dude is like kind of insistent and they don't really know anything about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He breaks out that ratchet set he borrowed. Didn't see that coming back.
That's right. Yeah. Great moment.
And he breaks open the door and he jumps out of the van and Penny is mad about it. And she says, go ahead and take care of yourself. Although he has a great rebuttal with no one else volunteered for the job.
That's a great response. It's a good moment there. I was also trying to figure out how they shot this scene because a lot of the time, like when you're shooting like a car scene like that, especially in the back of a van, they're not going to really have you moving. Mm-hmm. But then he's standing by the window and it looks like the van is actually moving, and I can't really tell how they shot that scene. Obviously, sometimes they put up the cars up on trailers and stuff like that, but I was just like, how did they? Were they driving them around in a van and filming this? I don't know, but
they pushed him out of a real, yeah.
I mean, it was interesting to me. I don't know if it's interesting to anyone else, but it was interesting to me.
No, I agree. When she does get back to the town hall, she finds her parents, but quickly ditches them to go find her brother Kevin at the movie. And yeah, like we said, things have escalated quickly here.
Oh yeah.
The Blob attacks the whole crowd, and those who are able flee in terror. But the Blob is huge now and growing bigger all the time.
He kills the guy who's spoiling the movies, and then there's like a cool shot of it like on the back wall that's really cool too. It looks just really great in the theater. It's awesome.
Yeah, just a lot more great dissolving people.
The lady melting on the floor.
Yes. Oh, she's really nasty.
Yeah. Yep.
Eddie, the young friend's jacket, though, gets caught on the door, so there's a tense moment where they struggle to free him by unzipping it. And also, you're like, the mom made him wear the jacket, and he was even like, it's so hot out, do I have to wear the jacket?
That's crazy. The fucking jacket.
The jacket. Gotta watch out for those.
You think that he's gonna get killed, and then she pulls the jacket off of him.
Just in the nick of time, yeah. Mm-hmm. They run for the sewers, and they do get in. This is where you get the tendril that snakes out and grabs her hair, which, like we said, is very cool.
Very cool.
Brian returns to the forest to grab his bike, and this is where he does hear some of the agents talking about how they've shut down the highway and the phone lines.
There's a little flimsy part, a little bit flimsy. He overhears a lot of plot, bio warfare, and Shawnee Smith is in the sewers. He hears everything he needs to conveniently hear.
Yeah, and when he goes to check on them, it's funny. Like you said, it is kind of flimsy, but at least it looks good when they like pull up the asteroid and suddenly it's a metal sphere with a big old American flag on it, and you're like, oh, at least they're pulling it off well.
It's great. I mean, I don't dislike that part, to be clear. I forgot that it came from Earth, and then when you find out it's a U.S. biological weapon of it's like this U.S. warfare, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like all that. Just the part that he's hearing so much plot. But then, hey, I gotta say, these scientists or whatever, they really fucking unload on Dylan. They're really trying to fucking shoot him. Yeah. They're really trying to take him down. And then, you know what? I wrote just here in the notes. That's why he tried to jump the bridge, because he successfully jumps the bridge in a second, too.
Hell yeah, he does. Mm-hmm. I did want to talk about one thing that they're kind of making a bit of a political point here with these guys, where one of the scientists is like, oh man, this thing is growing so fast. And the other general guy is like, sick, we're going to be way ahead of the Ruskies. And,
sure.
And Meadows just like nods gravely, which made me laugh. But
also makes sense in our time.
Yeah. And they fight about this a bit, and I think it's interesting that Meadows says this is the biggest advancement in weapons since the splitting of the atom, which something that famously has never had any ill effects on innocent people, right? And then, of course, there is this idea. He is clearly putting forward that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, which is, of course, also a much debated point. So just a lot of interesting stuff going on that they're presenting in terms of what big government is doing in the name of the people.
Yep. It's good shit.
Yeah, it is good shit.
I like this stuff. Again, the scientist stuff, I'm like, but I'm still just like, what is there I still do like. I don't dislike it, so.
And they are villainous. They're like, any civilians are expendable.
Yeah, that's kind of great.
He does get away, though, on his bike. They're hot on his heels. He does redeem himself. It's amazing when he lands and gives them, like, he flips them off.
Yeah. And they're still fucking unloading on him. Still just fucking trying to shoot him up.
The agency goes to shut off the junction valves that the Blob could use to escape, while Meg and the two boys try to escape both the Blob and the killer G-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But the Blob grabs one of these boys, and Meg dives in after him, but can't find him until he emerges from the depths, looking like an even more disfigured Jason at the end of Friday the 13th.
It's fucked.
It really is fucked. It's also, the music you mentioned, it's kind of industrial here in an interesting way.
Yeah, I think that like a whole rescore of the movie would be interesting, but yeah, I also don't dislike the music. Like I'm not being critical of it either. I'm just saying that like there is another route. I'm trying to think of like the reasons why it's not like a full classic. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what I'm trying to break it down.
Yeah.
But I do think it is a classic. I'm just saying why the rest of the world doesn't, why it's not up there with the thing or whatever. And it's not as good of a movie
Child's
as
Play hit the mark that this
Yes. Exactly. I mean, it is just crazy. Johnny Smith just telling the kid he's going to be okay. We see some rats die. That's when they notice the Blob is coming, that they kill the rats. And then that kid is just really melting. He's really, they really, it's like a half a second that you see him, but he looks bad. I remember it sticks with me. It fucked me up as a kid. Eddie dying just really fucked me up. And kids are supposed to be safe. Like we said, they're supposed to be safe. I still don't know if I love it, but I also do love it, of course. But, how did they not fucking run out of the theater? They should have run out of the theater.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. The kid died. It's fucked.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It does look great, though.
It does.
The gaping maw of the Blob is reaching for the other two, but Meg can't get out through the exit.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the Blob gets distracted by G-Men.
A little great. Yes. He's going to fuck him up.
Yeah. She tells the kid to run for City Hall and jumps back in the water. Extremely nerve-wracking as she climbs up the sewer entrance that's at like a 50-degree angle.
Yeah.
But luckily, Brian is there to help grab her hand and get her out of there. And they're still cornered by this Blob.
That's a great, though. The slippery in the sewer, this little slippery hill.
Oh, scary as fuck.
That's very scary.
I was thinking go up backwards on your feet and hands and like kind of crab walk up.
Crab walk. A little opposite of the Exorcist, an anti-exorcist.
Exactly.
Go upwards, yeah.
It's a purification move. They're still cornered by the Blob, so he does a sick stunt drive up a wall to avoid it on the motorcycle. That's fun.
That's a cool ass motorcycle trick. They're not gonna lie. It's great. Also, so risky.
Oh yeah,
it's very risky, but he had to do it, so he pulled.
Yeah,
it
I mean,
off,
what is the other option? Get blobbed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They get to an exit, but they're greeted by the stern face of Dr. Meadows, who tells the other G-Men to shut them in down there.
Wow.
Along with another agent who survived the Blob attack.
Yep.
They see a rocket launcher that the G-Man had packed just in case, though, and they use it to blow open the manhole and the truck parked on top. I laughed really hard at this. He's just like, fuck you.
This is maybe another flimsy part where I'm like, what? I feel like you would kill yourself if you shot that rocket launcher into the bottom of the sewer grate. And also, did he kill a guy who was in the truck? He maybe killed a man, but I mean, they were trying to kill him, so whatever.
Self-defense.
But man, that is really wild. They like don't even go that far away from like they like kind of like stick around where the ladder is.
Sticks his hand in there.
He just kind of sticks his hand in there. You think that they would like he would set it up and then like run a few feet or something. But no, he just kind of sticks his hand in.
No time for that. There's a blob on the loose.
Yep.
They emerge and Brian grabs a gun, trying to prevent them from taking him away so he can tell the truth. And yeah, this deputy is there on the side. He says, "I'll blow you out of your shoes, boy." But when the G-men try to shoot the kid, the deputy sees this and suddenly he's not so sure.
Paul McCrane becomes good. The RoboCop man becomes good. Yep. I do like in that moment, I was like, I think that he dies gruesomely later. And that's just how, the movie is ruthless. That's just how ruthless it is. He does. In a few minutes, we're going to see him bend backwards. But yeah, go on. The Blob makes his return.
He does. He grabs Meadows' ankle and quickly dispatches him through the suit. Looks great. Good riddance.
Good, yeah, good death. Great, good bad guy death right there. It's a good, like when the gun snaps because he's like trying to use the gun to not get pulled down into the sewer, and his body is like fidgeting around. It's really great.
It is great.
Yeah,
and I love that the second in command is like, let's frack this son of a bitch.
Yeah,
and they all just stand in a circle shooting into the sewer.
I love it. His mind is made up. The asshole's fucking gone. Let's just fucking shoot this thing, and which turns out to not be a great idea.
No, it's not, and they throw an explosive in too for good measure. And when they go to examine the fallout, the second in command does seem satisfied until suddenly everything on the ground starts to shake, and the Blob erupts from the sewer like a giant obelisk, this tongue that falls on the guy and begins to advance on the town.
That's great when that tongue that basically like lays that guy flat is really great.
Yeah.
Whoever that guy is, who is that? Oh, I mean, it does. The second in command guy gets killed too. I know he pulls his grenades, which I couldn't tell if the grenades went off or if he just got enveloped and died.
There are 2 flashes of light in the Blob and it does nothing.
Oh, that's pretty great. That's great. But the guy, which I think it's in this moment, it might be when the Blob is like going down the street and grabbing like scientists and grabbing people. But that moment where the tongue or the arm of the Blob comes down and just flattens that guy like Christopher, what's his name from Roger Rabbit?
Christopher Lloyd, yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, like when he gets the bulldozed or whatever, it's like that guy just gets like fucking flattened like a pancake. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, because he's still stuck to him when the Blob pulls up.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
Chaos ensues, and Del Close walks to the Blob accepting his fate, but instead gets ignited by an exploding flamethrower.
Pretty great.
And it's in this moment where she tries to put him out that she remembers that the Blob can't stand the cold, and they go steal the snowmaking / snowplow machine to bring it in, and they explode the liquid nitrogen, and they freeze the Blob.
By the way, I was gonna say that the Blob, the guy who has the blowtorch, and then the Blob basically like puts his finger in the blowtorch and just blows that guy up. That guy, I mean, maybe that guy has the worst death. I don't know what goes on inside the Blob, so I don't know, but the guy who just gets lit on fire, and then Del Close too. But yeah, the snow machine comes back into play.
Hell yeah.
The heroic snow machine.
And I like that we finally get this snow, the first real snow in years, they say. Maybe the town can recover from it all in this sort of the version of recovering from the Blob and also from the lean economic years.
So there's a few things here. One, they all go into that, like, what is that, a church? And then the RoboCop man, Paul McCrane, snapped in two. And that scene is like fine there. It's very funny, like when she gets out and Kevin Dillon has stolen the snow machine and then Shawnee Smith, like, he's basically he gets the Blob's attention, and the Blob is going to kill him, and then she gets his attention or whatever. But then her father also like weirdly runs out at the end there, and you think the dad is going to die, but he just kind of gets like blown away by like the pushback. I think this is like the thing of like, we killed so many main characters that like the dad kind of just has to be here for the end when the Blob explodes.
He's all that's left.
And then, like you said, it explodes and it's kind of beautiful. And like the snow, like you were saying, it's a nice ending of it. We got snow.
The blobsicles.
The blobsicles are really like, it's like this beautiful crystallized blob. But I'm like, wouldn't there be like humans laying around, I guess? Like, shouldn't there be some humans?
They're just fingers poking up through the icicles.
You would think that there would be, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's an even more hardcore version of this movie than we got.
Yeah. Yeah. And then does Kevin Dillon say "what a rush"? Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. When he finally survives, he says, "What a rush." And Del Close, all burned up and one-eyed now, gives a grim sermon in a tent revival. He takes a drink, and he's approached by one listener asking about when the day of reckoning is coming. And he says, "Soon, because the Lord will give him a sign, revealing his blob chunks from before to have thawed in the mason jar." It's an amazing cliffhanger. I love this ending. I think it's so fantastic. And of course, it does draw a parallel between the sort of political ideology of the G-Men with religion as these sort of two destructive impulses of mankind that can consume a town.
That's great.
So there you go. Very fun ending.
Yeah. The Del Close ending is pretty great. He looks gross and he's going to cause the apocalypse. It's great. And he's in some weird hot tent somewhere. Like you're like, what has happened? How much time has passed? What is going on? And he's going to release the Blob, which also, I mean, I guess the science of the ending is also kind of like a little bit flimsy too, of like they blew up the CO2 containers or whatever the fuck you know what I mean? Like, and then they caused it to snow, but they froze the Blob and they blew him up. And I'm like, it's a little confusing, but I'll let it pass. Who cares? And it's exciting. Shawnee Smith's foot gets caught. They do a good job. So you know what? You're ready. The movie moves along at a good pace, and you're kind of ready. You're ready for it to end. You've seen what you need to see with the Blob. We're good to go at this point. So, and I'm glad that that Dylan's friend who had the snow machine didn't die too. I'm glad he survived.
Hell yeah. Great for the mechanic. He gets to survive for another day. And now, Mitch, since I've already held you here for longer than you had hoped.
No, please. No, not at all. I got to go do an audition. That's the only thing I got to leave for. I would rather talk about the Blob for hours.
Well, our final sum up of our thoughts here. We've reached that part of the episode. We're not confined by best horror movie ever made anymore. But yeah, just kind of your thoughts on why this is something you wanted to talk about today, why you think it's interesting, and what makes it stand out from the pack.
I'm in no rush. Mookie's coming at 8, and I'm going to shower, and he's going to help me with an audition. I'm putting it all out there. That's exactly what's happening.
Wow.
So I should be still good to do all of that.
Former guest.
Great guy. Super funny. We love Mookie. It's just a great gory remake. It's just the practical effects are fantastic. Like I said, the music is maybe pretty bad. I don't even know if that's bad. It just maybe could be a step up. Like I said, just such a fun, practical B movie. Like you were saying, it's like meta. It's having fun with itself. It's all about the kills. You don't know who's going to die next because no one is safe, clearly, with the Blob. The guy who you think is the main character gets fucking melted. The little kid gets melted. There's all these all these protagonists that are just, blobbed up. They get blobbed up and you never see them again. And so I wish that there were a million more of these movies. I wish they made more of these movies now. In a way, like, I think Starship Troopers is a masterpiece, but like also like the fun that movie has and the gore that movie has. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the Blob is as good as that, but I just think like I love these kind of practical, gory, B feeling movies that you could. It's the exact sort of movie that the kids are watching in the theater at night, and it just it's so nostalgic. It reminds me of watching USA Up All Night or being up at like 1 a.m. on a Saturday night and having a fucking meatball sub or something. You know what I mean? It's just it rules and it doesn't get enough respect. Like you were saying, it doesn't get enough respect. It's fantastically made. The effects are incredible. And for a movie, it's a movie that spent a lot of money on practical effects, and maybe that's why the music is bad, or maybe that's why there's some things that are not as good as other things. But like, you can see that on screen. You can see the money they put into those practical effects, and I'm all for that. I love that, and I wish that there was more of that. So that's why I love it. A little rambly, but that's I blobbed it out there, but that's it fits for today's episode.
I totally agree. To me, this is such a fascinating movie and merits discussion because I kind of said it as a joke earlier when I was like, oh, this is a whole movie of that scene from RoboCop. But I really kind of think it is in a way.
It kind of is.
Not only because of the gruesomeness of the kills, but also, RoboCop is obviously a satire. There's a lot of comedy in it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the Blob is very straight-laced about it, I think that because it's throwing back to the 50s in a way that is poking fun at some of the cliches of that time period, that there is a little bit of like that parody satire element to this as well. And so it really does have a lot going on. I think the performances are really spectacular, especially because it's people that you don't necessarily expect to be carrying a movie, especially a movie that comes together as well as this one.
Sure, yeah.
Like you said, the effects are absolutely unreal. You can see where the money went. They're leaving it all on screen. And ultimately, I would rather have the effects look as great as they do than have them worry more about the music, because you're right, it is kind of like a time capsule kind of thing where it feels very 80s and of the time, but
sure,
I've definitely heard worse, and
100%.
The effects, I think, make up for it, and there's just a lot of fun to be had with this movie. And yeah, like I said, this movie doesn't get enough respect.
It doesn't. It really doesn't get enough. It's the Rodney Dangerfield of the Blob is the Rodney Dangerfield of these horror movies. It doesn't get enough respect, and it just is. Hey, what a rush! I agree with Kevin Dillon. It's just a great gory remake, and we didn't talk about this that much, but like people getting punished for sex, kind of an 80s horror movie trope or whatever. Also, at the same time, like there are people who are getting punished for sex, but then also like these innocent protagonists also getting like it kind of pulls the rug up from underneath you. It's if you've never seen this movie, I think a lot of this stuff will surprise you. I think it will keep you guessing and being like, "What the fuck's going on?" But a great watch. I really loved revisiting it. So
absolutely, I did as well. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Mitch. This was super fun.
I had a blast.
Yeah, me too. And definitely I want to give you a chance to tell everyone where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram and Twitter. B-Day Boys Mitch on Twitter, and my name's Mitch on Instagram. And then you can listen to the Doughboys podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And then we also have a double, the Doughboys Double, which is on Patreon. Patreon.com/Doughboys, I think is what we'll get, or just Google it and you'll find it.
You'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it. And hey, Twisted Metal's coming out. Check it out. I think if you're a fan of horror and gore and the like, I think that you'll really like it. There's definitely blood. I'll use that spoiler that I have been covered in blood. So. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm really looking forward to it. No plugs for me because you're already paying for the show. So I'll just use this time to encourage you to go listen to Doughboys if you don't already, to check out Twisted Metal when that comes out, and I know that I will be doing the same.
Hell yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. Bye.
Thank you, buddy.